Hi everyone, this is Dick and Mike. We're going to give you a little refresher lesson on the playing of Pinochle. Why Pinochle? You know, why not any other card game? Well, what we're doing is picking up where our ancestors started. It was their game of choice, and four of us cousins got together, Dick and myself, Dick's brother Pete and our cousin Ed got together and decided that we'd like to try to resurrect the Pinochle Club, which our fathers, grandfathers, and uncles had used during the 60s and 70s. They got together once a week, I believe on a Tuesday evening, to play the game during the winter. And they took it very seriously. They were all great players. And the four of us and cousin Steve, Dick and Pete's older brother, is also the five primary masters of the game that are left. So we're going to try to reintroduce you to the game again. And the reason being is it's our forefathers' game and our family game. It was a very popular game during World War II. There were a lot of soldiers and sailors in the family, and they all played the game. So Pinochle, basically the way our family plays it, is usually a four-handed game with two sets of partners. There are other combinations you can play. You can play two-handed, three-handed, six-handed, eight-handed, but the primary way that we play is four-handed. Okay. The object of the game is simple. You're going to try to score 100 points. The winner of the game is the one who scores 100 points first, with an exception that we'll get to in a little while as far as scoring the 100 point. But you can score the game in two ways. The first way is called meld, which is simply a combination of cards that you hold in your hand that are worth points. The other way is in the actual play of the hand, where the cards are played, and there's a maximum of 25 points that can be made during the play of every hand. There are 24 card points, the cards being the aces, kings, and tens, and whoever takes the last trick gets an extra point, a bonus point, so it comes to 25. So I'm going to now pass it on to Dick to continue on.
Okay, I'll talk about the deck. The Pinochle deck is a special deck of cards. It is similar to a regular deck, poker deck, but it has no card lower than a 9. So there is no 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The only cards are the three picture cards, King, Queen, Jack, the Ace, the 10, and the 9. So there are only 6 denominations of cards in Pinochle. And so there are 4 suits, like as in a regular deck. The other difference, other than not having the low cards, is that there is 2 of each card. 2 aces of clubs, 2 tens of clubs, etc. That means there are 6 denominations in each suit, 2 double of each card. That means 12 cards in each suit, 4 suits. There's 48 cards in a Pinochle deck. Our relatives always played with these bicycle cards, either blue or red. And that's the deck. So now the next phase of the game is the deal and the bid. Turn it over to Mike.
Okay. The hand is usually dealt 4 cards at a time, so that each player ends up with 12 cards. Okay, the key to the game is bidding. You want to try to take the bid because it allows the winner of the bid to name trump, which gives you a great advantage in the play of the hand. Now, in order to bid, you have to look at your hand and know how much meld you might have in your hand, how many power cards, aces and tens and kings you might have in your hand, so you know approximately how many tricks you might be able to take during the play of the hand. And it's a very subjective way, but it gives you an idea of how much you can bid. Comes with experience, and you learn it as you play the hands. The meld is the combination of cards that you lay down on the deck after the bidding is complete, which gives you points towards your score. There are combinations that I think we're going to get into later of how the meld is figured out, but it also is a way to cue your partner on what you might have in your hand, and you might give them a cue as to what you want them to bid to continue bidding, and that is usually based on the amount of meld you might have in your hand. If you want to take the bid, you would skip this part. You would just keep bidding because you have good meld and probably a power hand. But if you want your partner to take the bid and you have meld in your hand, there are cue bids you can give, which are certainly legal, and it's based on the amount of meld you have in your hand. If you have between 4 and 6 meld in your hand, you would raise the normal bid by 1. For example, if you were starting the bid out, the bid starts at 15. If you want to tell your partner you have some meld in your hand and that you should bid if you can, you would raise the bid by 1 and start the bidding at 16. That has told your partner, I've got 4 to 6 meld. Normally, if I have just 4, I wouldn't give a melding bid with just 4. But if I had some aces to go with it, I would, because you know if you have aces, you're going to take some tricks with them and you're going to add probably 1 or 2 points each time your ace is played. If you have 8 to 10 meld in your hand, I would raise the bid by 2, which would indicate to your partner you've got a really good meld in your hand, and it would really be helping him if he's got a decent trump suit to name to continue on with the bidding. If you have 10 or more, you would raise it by 3. Now, if you have all 4 aces in your hand, meaning an ace in every suit, that is worth 10 points in meld, but it's actually worth more because the aces are the power cards, and you have at least the ace of trump and 3 others, which would get you probably another 6 to 8 points in the play of the hand. So the aces are a very valuable asset to have. The best thing to get is something called a full Pinochle, which, if you look at a deck of cards, that comes with the, when you open the deck, on there will be a picture of a full Pinochle, which is simply both queens of spades and both jacks of diamonds. If you have that, it's worth 30 points, a killer hand. Now, if you only have 1 of each, 1 jack of diamonds, 1 queen of spades, it's worth 4 points. So there's a big difference. And the last thing you would continue to meld would be what is known as a run. The ace, 10, king, queen, jack of one suit, and possibly, and not possibly, but also the 9, but it's not needed to have a run. A run is worth 15 points, and you have at least 5 to 6 trump in your hand, so you have at least half the trump in your hand, so you've got a powerful hand to play. So I would consider it in my own personal way of bidding that if I have a run, I can go to a minimum of 30 in the bidding and probably more, up to 35, 36. Okay, because that gives you a lot of meld, the ability to name trump, and a lot of power cards to play. So the next portion is the actual meld itself. So I'm going to pass that to Dick.
Okay, meld is simply a combination of cards that you're dealt. There's no skill involved in it, no strategy. You only have to be closely paying attention to your cards to know what you have. There really aren't very many melds. They're easy to memorize. The melds are 4 aces, 4 kings, 4 queens, 4 jacks, a run, a marriage, a pinochle, and the 9 of trump. Okay, so 4 aces is worth 10 points. So by 4 aces, 4 kings, I mean 1 of each suit, worth 10 points. 4 kings, worth 8 points. 4 queens, 6 points. 4 jacks, 4 points. A run, as Mike emphasized, is a very, very powerful thing to have. It is 5 cards in trump, must be in trump, ace, 10, king, queen, jack. A sequence of 5 like that, as long as it's in trump, is worth 15 points. A marriage, a king and a queen, is worth 2 points. A marriage in trump is worth 4 points. A pinochle, which is jack of diamonds and queen of spades, is worth 4. A double pinochle, 2 jacks of diamonds, 2 queens of spades, is worth 30 points. And a 9 of trump is worth 1. If it's difficult to remember the combination jack of diamonds, queen of spades, just leave the box top on the table. On the back of it, it always shows you the jack of diamonds, queen of spades. Okay, now about melding. Each person melds individually, and the scorekeeper adds up the melds for each team. However, and so they're added together. But the melds cannot be incorporated into one. I mean, if 2 partners, one partner has a pinochle and another partner has a pinochle, that's worth 8 points. You can't put them together and say you got a double pinochle. Also, you have to be aware that the same card can be used in different combinations. If you have a run in spades and a jack of diamonds, you have a run and a pinochle for 19 points. You do not need another queen of spades. It can go with the pinochle is included in the run. It is possible to have a run worth 21 points. The run is 15 points, but you could have a double king and a double queen. That's a run and a marriage in trump for 4 more points, and the 2 9s extra would add to 21 points. The only obligatory meld is the 9 of trump. On each hand, there has to be at least 2 meld because they're going to be the 2 9s of trumps, and so you have to have, there's going to be 2 melds. It is not necessary to meld all your meld. That could come into play rarely, but it does happen if at the end of the game, the score is very even and close to the end, such as if each team has 95 points. You might not want to show everybody what cards you have because you're going to need those cards to take tricks. You don't have to show your meld. 99% of the time, you show all your meld, but the only obligatory meld is the 9 of trump. Okay, that covers meld. Then after the bidding, declaring of trump, melding, the cards are picked back up into the hand, and the play of the hand begins. Mike will talk about it.
Okay, bidding starts with the player to the left of the dealer, and he will start the bidding if he wants. He can either pass or bid a certain amount. The minimum bid to open is 15. Okay, there are certain signals you can give your partner while you're bidding, as I explained a little while ago, by giving a melding bid, that is jumping the bid by 1, 2, or 3, which tells your partner something about your hand. But the winner of the bid is the one who will name trump for that hand. It's not like some other games where there is no trump called, you just play your power cards. But you must name a trump. Okay, once you name trump, then the meld is put down on the table in front of each player, counted by the scorekeeper, and added as the first part of your bid to make. So if you bid 15 and you meld 6, you have 9 points, tricks to get to make your bid. It's important to make your bid because if you don't, there's a severe penalty. The penalty is you lose your meld, you lose the points that you gathered in play of the hand, and the bid amount that you bid is deducted from your score. Very difficult to overcome. So it's a severe penalty for not making it. There is a Polish name for that. It's called a biczak. Dick may or may not want to show you some Polish terms that we have that play of the family.
Excuse me, Mike, that's going into Judah.
Oh, Judah, okay.
The beat sack is when you take all the tricks.
My fault. Okay, that's right, to Judah. Again, it's something you try to avoid if you can. Okay, the winner of the bid will then lead whatever card he wants. Usually if he has ace of trump, that's the first card out. And play is followed from left to right. Okay, and there are very strict rules of what cards you can play. You cannot false card in this game. You must follow suit if you can. You must also beat the card that is on the table if you can. Okay, and if you do not have the suit that is led and you have a trump, you must trump that card. Now if someone else has trumped it before you, you must try to beat that trump card that's played, even if it's your partner's. Okay, now if you don't have the suit and you don't have trump, you're then allowed to play any card you want out of your hand. Normally, if your partner is winning the trick, you would give him a point card. Again, a point card is an ace, a 10, or a king. The other cards in the hand don't count for anything. Okay? So there are 8 aces, 8 kings, 8 10s, a total of 24 possible points to make in a hand. And again, whoever takes the last trick is awarded a bonus point. So there's a total of 25. Okay, then after the play of the hand, the cards are counted. Each team counts their points, added to the meld that you've had, and that tells you if you made your bid or not. Okay, during the play of the hand, there are some clues that you can give your partner as to what cards you have and what maybe you would like him to lead. For example, if he plays 2 or 3 trump in a row and you run out, you don't have any, you might want to consider playing a card from the best set that you have in your hand. If you have, for example, an ace of spades, an ace of clubs, you might want to play on the first chance you get a club or a spade that tells your partner that when he's ready to lead again, to lead a club or a spade, and if the intermediate player doesn't have the ace in front of you, you will take the trick and continue on playing the cards that you have in your hand. Also, there's a couple of things that when you get more sophisticated in the game, you realize by the play of the cards what everyone else has in their hands. For example, again, your partner plays an ace, and you have the other ace, and say you have ace 10-9. You would play the 9 on his ace rather than giving him the 10 as a point, because you're telling him that usually if I'm not going to give him a point or a decent card, if I play the 9, I probably have the other ace. Doesn't happen all the time, but it's a sample of the kind of clue you can give. There are other things that you can even get even more sophisticated with when you get down to, if you have a very strong hand and your partner has taken a bid because he also has a strong hand. Say for example you have double ace, double 10 of a suit and maybe a 9 of the suit, and your partner is playing his trump out. If you play off of the trump when you run out the ace of that combination you have, that tells your partner that you have a very strong suit, and that if he has one, he should probably eliminate all the trump, then play that suit and allow you to continue on to take as many tricks as you can. That's just a sample of how the play of the cards can give you some communication between partners that is legal. Illegal communication is not allowed and it's frowned upon. So we watch that carefully. False carding is not allowed. You can't not follow any of the rules. Okay? If you have a trump and trump is called for, you must play it. You can't hold it back. And you must, again, beat every trick that you can. Okay? The next part I leave the deck here.
Okay, so at the end of each hand, 2 players will have stacks of cards in front of them, because each trick contains 4 cards. One person on each team will take the cards that his team won, had the highest card in that trick. And so there will be 2 stacks of cards in front of each team. And usually the player with the fewer number of cards counts his points, because you only need to count one set of points. The other team will have 20, will have whatever this card has. To get that other set of points, you just subtract 25. Subtract this hand from 25 and you get the remainder. Okay, now in counting points, as Mike mentioned, the only cards that count the point, the only counters, are the aces, 10s, and kings. So the player with the fewer cards will just go through his hand and count out 1, 2, whatever. And that will end up with a certain number, which will be scored for that team. If this hand had 9 points, then the other hand had 16 points. There are 24 points in cards, and whoever got the last trick gets extra points. So there are 25 possible points, and that's how you count the points at the end of each hand. The scorekeeper then will mark down those points. The score, one person is assigned to be scorekeeper. He has a little piece of paper, he writes across the top, WTBD. We, they, bid, deal. The so the scorekeeper keeps track of who deals each hand, so it goes around clockwise, so you know who's next deal. Writes down the bid as soon as the final bid is made, so you know whether the person gets the bid or not. The scorekeeper will then announce whether the person who took the bid made his bid or not. If he makes his bid, then he gets all his points, gets all the points that he melded, and it's added up. And so you keep going like that until one team gets 100. If, as Mike said, you don't make your bid, if you bid 15 and don't make 15 points, then you lose your whatever meld, and 15 points is subtracted from your total. That's called joint going into jura. If you end up below 0, then your score on the scorecard is put in a circle, and you have to work your way up back to 0 and back up. So the winner of the game, maybe we can talk about this now, is the first team that gets 100, with one exception. If you have a bidder out situation, that means both teams are close to 100, and both teams then, at the end of the play of the hand, get more than 100 points. It is not the team that has the highest number that wins. If both teams go over 100, it's the team that took the bid on that hand who is the winner. That's the phenomenon of bidder out. It's a very important way to play, and it influences strategy at the end of the game. So that's the game. Get 100 points and you win. All right, so I think we've gone through all the phases. Now we'll talk a little bit about certain strategy points. I'd like to go first. I would say the most important thing to strategically to know about Pinochle, to do in Pinochle, is to count trump. You must know how many trump have been played, and so how many trump are left. There are 12 trump. The good players like Mike and our ancestors, they had some kind of memory function that they didn't have to make any conscious effort. They knew how many trump were left still to be played. If you can't, doesn't come naturally to you, you must make a conscious effort to count trump and know how many trump are left. It's a big advantage to know who's got the trump and how many are left. So, Mike, other strategies?
Yeah, there are other clues that are very simple to follow. By just looking at what people meld, you can see what they have in their hand, okay? If, for example, Dick melds a set of queens and maybe a couple of kings with it, and maybe the 2 nines of trump. Tells me he's got a lot of meld, but he's also got a pretty lousy hand. He doesn't have much power in his hand to take any tricks. Okay, you can also see how many diamonds, spades, and so forth that are shown out on the table. And if you can grasp it, this takes patience and time to learn. But by looking at what's meld, you can start to get a count of what everyone has in their hand. And after the play of 2 or 3 or 4 cards, a really good player will know what just about what everyone has in their hand. And from there, you can go on and maybe get an advantage in leading or taking a trick or getting a card to your partner, so he then continues on with using his cards that he has as power cards to take a trick. Again, the strategy of the game really comes down to what Dick says is when the game is coming to the end, when you're getting close to 100 points. It's the one who takes the bid and gets over 100 points that wins the game, even though the opponents may also go over 100 points. Okay, it doesn't help them. So you've got to take the bid. There are certain other styles of the game that other people play where that is not the case. And if you start to read about Pinochle, you might find that. There are other ways to play the game that we don't use. We follow the strict interpretation of how to play, of what the rules are and how to follow suit and how to beat each card and how to make sure trump is played so that everyone has an even chance if you follow the rules. There's no subterfuge at all in playing Pinochle. It's a great game to learn. It's very easy to learn, but it's difficult to master because of all the intricacies of the play of the hand that you will learn, and it only comes with experience. And eventually you'll all become masters of the game and maybe pass it on to your kids. So the Pinochle Club will continue on, you know, in perpetuity. Be great. It's a great game to have. You know, you don't need a cell phone, a computer, a TV, anything. That's the way our ancestors did it. They did it in the era of before TV, or when TV only had 3 stations. Whenever the family would get together, Pinochle would break out at almost every occasion, and they took it very seriously. And like I said before, they were all great players. They were some that had a little more character in the game, that they'd like to show their feelings while they were playing. And a couple of our uncles were like that. But it just shows you how serious the game was played. So we hope you all enjoy the game of Pinochle, and we'll continue to join the Pinochle Club or to stay with the Pinochle Club and continue to get together with us once a month or so during the spring, fall, and winter. So again, thank you for listening.